A squatter tenant has filed a temporary protection order against the Washington state landlord who held a protest at his rental property after that tenant refused to pay rent and now owes more than $80,000. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an update to an article I just covered a few days back about this landlord up in Washington state who held a protest at his own rental property. Okay, so basically he's got the problem of a squatter tenant who is refusing to pay rent and using the court system to be able to stay in the property for as long as possible. This is an issue that I brought up many times, okay? This can happen in any part of the country, but in places like Washington state, California, New York, it's an absolute nightmare because the court systems they're 100% anti-landlord, okay? The laws in these places are anti-landlord. Not only can the tenant do this, but it will take you months, if not years, to be able to remove that tenant from the property. And the whole time, you're gonna have to pay all of your bills. The tenant essentially has stolen the property from you, okay? They can come up, and in some cases, they're using fake leases. In this case, this guy was an actual tenant who just, scammed the landlord, stopped paying rent, and now has lived rent-free for almost a year. And this is an absolute nightmare, okay? Because a lot of people, they just can't afford to take the financial hit of still having to pay all of their bills while the tenant is living for free. So this could put a person into either extreme financial distress or lead to bankruptcy or foreclosure of the property. So yeah, horrible situation. I hate reading about it. And the only thing I want to do is I want to bring to light the fact that this is a real problem. There was another story recently coming out of Queens, New York, about how a landlord tried to take back her property from a squatter, and she ended up getting arrested because in New York State, the laws also are so much in favor of the tenant that you can't even prove that a person with a fake lease, there's no way to prove that this person with a fake lease is not a tenant. It wouldn't take any investigative work by the police at all in order to prove this stuff, okay? You'd be easily able to tell, and you know what? They need to change the laws. They need to change the laws so that landlords can not only get rid of these 100% fake squatters, but also get rid of these nightmare tenants who just don't pay, okay? I mean, the situation is extra bad for landlords because we're the ones who are trying to provide housing to a community. So oftentimes we'll own multiple houses, and when this sort of thing happens, that increases the odds of this sort of situation happening to you. I worry about this sort of thing happening here in Nebraska. And yeah, I'd be able to get the tenant out in a short period of time by comparison. However, that doesn't mean the tenant won't still cost me thousands of dollars in, legal fees and damages and lost rent, etc. So yeah, this sort of thing, I want to see laws similar to the one that they recently passed in Florida where, hey, the police can charge this person criminally and remove them for the crimes they have committed, okay? So there's so many laws already on the books that should theoretically cover these sort of situations, okay? But the police are not enforcing those laws. And the end result is that landlords and property owners can have their properties essentially stolen from them. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So, the big update is that now this property owner has a restraining order against them. So, I don't even know how this is possible. You own the property. You might have to do maintenance on the property. You have to be able to collect rent, yet you have a restraining order against you for what? Because you held a protest at your own house? I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. This is, once again, this is overreach by the government, and this is putting to me, it's giving one thing. It's doing one thing. It is discouraging people who are landlords from wanting to own property in the state. It is discouraging people from wanting to become landlords in the state. And it's going to make rental housing more expensive for the people who are left there. I mean, it's already super expensive, but just imagine that, hey, the number of rental properties has declined, even if it's a small decline of, 2 or 3%. Well, there's already a housing shortage. So if 2 or 3% of the landlords out there decide they don't want to deal with this nonsense anymore, that is a huge, huge loss. But anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. This article is coming from Newsweek.com, and it says, squatter bars a landlord from his own $2 million home. Let's get into it. Squatter Sang Kim has barred landlord Jaskarn Singh from his $2 million Washington home after refusing to pay rent for 2 years. Singh, a Bellevue landlord, is holding a second protest rally on Saturday after 2 years of Kim living in his rental property without paying rent. The rally will call for Kim to leave the property immediately. Now, the article saying the guy hasn't paid rent in 2 years, that actually is true. However, I believe that the first year he was able to get some sort of rental assistance to pay the money that that the landlord was owed, right? And so if I remember the story correct from a few days ago, basically, they filed eviction against this guy. Some organization came up with the rental assistance and was able to pay the landlord for that first full year of non-payment of rent. But then immediately they stopped paying rent again, and now it's been almost a second year. So yeah, this person, obviously getting to live for free, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating reading stories like this. While Singh legally owns the home, he's been forced to stay off the premises due to a temporary protection order filed by Kim. This means he must stay 1,000 feet away from the property he legally owns. During the rally, family members and landlord rights supporters are expected to show in mass numbers, and a GoFundMe in support of Singh has so far raised $1,000 with a $100,000 goal. The fundraiser says it hopes to support Singh as he faces thousands of dollars in lost rent and legal fees. Yeah, and just going through the eviction process, you're bound to pay a lawyer, especially in a place like Washington State. You're bound to be paying thousands of dollars, okay? Especially since they're dragging this out as long as possible. So yeah, I mean, I feel for this guy, but you know what? It's a warning sign. It's a warning. It's a warning for the small mom and pop landlords. Maybe you own one property up in Washington State, and it was the house that you used to live in. You're like, you know what? We're just gonna turn it into a rental, and no, there won't be any problems, right? But you're not familiar with the landlord laws, okay? And this is the sort of situation that I hear about all the time. Like a lot of the small mom and pop landlords, they have no clue that they are living in, these far left-leaning progressive places where landlords don't have any rights. They just think, oh, I'm going to make a few extra bucks, and then a bad tenant, they end up with a bad tenant who screws them over, and they're like, well, why are these laws in place? I had no clue. Well, you know what? You should have known. You should have known. The politicians that you voted for and that you supported put those sort of laws into place. And I'm sure they had good intentions. They were like, oh, we're going to target the bad landlords by passing these laws. That's what I always read. I read these articles all the time, okay? And they say, okay, we're going to do this because there was a landlord once 20 years ago who didn't maintain his property. So what we're going to do is we're going to require all landlords from now till the end of time, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of landlords to comply with this law that's going to cost them thousands and thousands of dollars because that one landlord 20 years ago did something bad. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. Wrong, okay? So that's how a lot of these laws get put into place, okay? They get put into place because you have one bad landlord or maybe a few bad landlords out there out of tens or hundreds of thousands of good landlords who are doing everything right. And rather than punishing just those bad actors, they go after us all. So that's why I'm so against pretty much every anti-landlord law. I mean, even if it seems like it's logical, it's just a rental registration. Yeah, well, you know what? Rental registrations can be used against us, okay? And I'm seeing that right now with my properties. I just got a notice of inspection for another one of my rental properties here in Omaha, Nebraska, right? And keep in mind, right, that yeah, my properties are in good shape. My properties I've never had an issue with, but the whole rental inspection issue was caused because there was a bad landlord somewhere who, had a dilapidated apartment building and people living in bad conditions. So now I have to pay, I believe it's close to $150 to get my unit inspected, even though I've always kept my units in good shape. Well, guess who I'm passing that $150 on down to? Okay, the tenant. And other landlords are doing the same thing. So, I don't like the nonsense that we have to go through. And it's even in places outside of the coast. It's even in places like here where I live and where I invest. Okay, so yeah, I can't believe that they would even allow this tenant to put a restraining order on this landlord, okay? A scammer tenant who has lived for free for 2 years is now, oh, this landlord is harassing me. Well, yeah, the landlord wants their money. They want their property back. You have a $2 million house, okay? I know that Washington State is an expensive place, but $2 million is a lot of money, okay? So anyway, I'll put a link to the article in the description down below so you can read all the rest of the details that I didn't cover today.